Hey, I was just looking through my YouTube analytics, and this is kind of a historic day. According to YouTube analytics, 4% of my viewers are now female. That is an epic, all-time high. A whole 4%. I mean, wow. What has caused this massive difference in female viewership? No idea, but it's happening. Our next question comes from Red Chucks, who actually put this out in a poll. He says, who wins in a fight? Icy Mike with a tactical flashlight, Master Wong with a baby stroller, Ramsey Dewey with a Bible, or Sensei Seth with a water bottle? Well, I don't know about y'all, but my personal view, the Word of God. I'll take that over a baby stroller, a flashlight, and a water bottle any day. And if any of you are interested, don't forget about my second channel, Ramsey Reads the Bible. Link in the description down below. Next. Our next question comes from our friend Kenneth, who wants to know, do you think there are any modern Taekwondo-style kicking techniques that would be useful and applicable to MMA? If so, what would they be? Yes, all the ones that land are good techniques. If you can kick someone in the head with a round kick, a hook kick, a side kick, an axe kick, an arc kick, a crescent kick, a tornado kick, a jumping spinning hook kick, a jumping back kick, a whatever kick, it's a good kick. Next question. So, one of you all sent me a link to a video titled, Why Wing Chun is Illegal in MMA, and oh man, this was a brilliant comedy piece. I assume it was a brilliant comedy piece. Otherwise, it was just a really stupid video because it was funny to me. Essentially, this guy comes out and says, Wing Chun is illegal in MMA, and then I'm thinking, okay, I think I know where he's going with this. I think he's going to say, like, poking the eye, kicking the groin is illegal, and therefore people who practice Wing Chun with the intent of fighting for the streets or whatever won't be able to use their deadly techniques in the cage. Okay, but he took it a step further. He did hint on those ideas, but he took it a step further and said the entire martial art of Wing Chun has been banned from the sport of mixed martial arts. I mean, it wasn't just the way we train is too dangerous for the cage type of argument. It was just the entire sport of Wing Chun has been banned from MMA. It's like, oh man. No, it hasn't. No, it. But I love the fact that in the year 2021, these delusional people who want to believe so hard that they haven't wasted their time training in a useless fighting style come up with these silly reasons about why they don't have a patron saint in the UFC, and it's precious, man. It's just absolutely precious. It's amazing. So my friend asking what I thought about why Wing Chun is illegal in the sport of MMA, that video was hilarious. Unintentionally so, but hilarious. Thanks for the laughs. Next question. I just wanted to give a shout out to our friend Christopher. I don't know how to pronounce your last name because it's not one I'm familiar with, but our friend Christopher has been diagnosed with ALS back in July, and the odds are that he doesn't have long, right? If you're not familiar with that ALS, I believe it's the same disease that struck Stephen Hawking and confined him to a wheelchair, took away his voice, and Stephen Hawking was kind of an outlier because he lived with this disease for an extended period of time, whereas most people within a couple of years are gone. So, man, Christopher, you're in my thoughts, man. You're in my prayers, and thank you, my friend. Thank you for watching. Thank you for making time in your life to hear what I've had to say. I really appreciate that, man. I hope to meet you in the hereafter, my friend. Thank you for watching. Our next question comes from Smeagol98, who says, how do I get the fighter's mentality outside of the ring? Dude. This question could go basically two ways. One, you don't want the fighter's mentality that they have in a fight outside of the ring. Because outside of the ring, that's civilization. Inside of the ring, this is a place you can get away with attempted murder without being confined to a jail cell for it. Outside of the ring, if you have I'm going to assault and batter another human being mercilessly without remorse, you're not a good person. You're just not. Inside of the ring, good. That's what we're looking for. That's what we're rewarding. That's what we're cheering for. Now, if you're talking about the mentality of actual fighters, the mentality that actual fighters have outside of the ring, man, the best fighters I know, the best ones, outside of the ring, they don't advertise it. They don't walk around like a bunch of badasses, like, look at me, I'm the best fighter, I'm so good. Most of them are pretty approachable, normal, sociable, what's the word I'm looking for? People you can socialize with? Yeah, that one. They're that type of person. They're the type of person you might want to be friends with and hang out with. They're easygoing. They're nice. So how do you get that mentality outside of the ring? Well, if you're not like that already, stop it, repent of your wicked ways, and chill out a little bit. Our next question comes from William, who says, hi, Mr. Ramsey. Technically, it's Mr. Dewey if you're going to put Mr. in front of it, because Dewey's my last name, Ramsey's my first name. It's shocking how many people in the comments call me Dewey Ramsey, even though it's quite clearly spelled out on the name of this channel, Ramsey Dewey, and at the beginning of almost every one of my videos, I start out by saying, hey, it's Ramsey Dewey. Does that sound like Dewey Ramsey? No, it doesn't. Anyway, William says, could you make a video on safely sparring without pads and mats? If anyone else has tips, please comment. Thanks. Man, I hear a lot of questions and comments saying, oh yeah, you guys just train with all these pads on. Like, what pads? What pads are we talking about? Have you seen my sparring videos? How do we spar? Generally a pair of gloves, a mouth guard, a groin protector. Those aren't pads, right? If we're being generous, maybe some shin guards. I guess you could call those pads. But how do you train safely without a bunch of pads? You go very light and you don't use any power at all. That's about it. I made a lot of videos on this topic. How to spar safely, how to spar effectively. I have a whole playlist on how to spar safely. A whole playlist on sparring safely for noobs. 2 of them. Not 1, but 2. Chock full of videos about this topic. But it all boils down to, if you don't want to hurt the other guy, don't hurt the other guy. No power. Not 10%, not 50%. Man, if I can punch through bricks going 100%, and I'm like, I'll just do 50% of punching through a brick when I punch you in the face, that's still a meaningful amount of power that's going to do a meaningful amount of damage to your face. So if you want to spar without inflicting damage, you spar without inflicting damage, meaning no power. Touch. Tag. Oh, but I don't feel very tough and manly doing that. Well, get used to it. Because that's what it takes. Our next question comes from Maverick Black Belt Academy, who says, have you ever discussed the differences you've noticed between martial arts and martial sports? Since you are experienced in at least one traditional martial art and have extensive knowledge of 3, 4, or 5 combat sports, I think you'd be particularly insightful regarding the areas they don't overlap and the areas people don't generally realize that they do overlap. Okay. Yeah. So I spent much of my early life training in traditional martial arts, Taekwondo, Shotokan Karate, Capoeira, Kobudo. Trained in a bunch of different traditional martial arts over the years. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm a mixed martial arts coach. I train cage fighters, I train kickboxers, I train boxers, I train grapplers. And the main differences between martial arts and combat sports, or as you put it, martial sports, is this. Martial arts has become a pretty general term that can mean almost anything you want it to mean. You can say, I'm a martial artist, and you might just go out there and do LARPing, live action role playing, put on a costume, act out some events, tell yourself you're doing it for the streets or whatever, and at the end of the day not be able to fight your way out of a wet paper bag. You might be some legitimate badass who knows how to fight for real. You might be training in martial arts for health and fitness and safety. And did I just get a message on my phone? Yes, I did. We'll address that in a minute. You might be one of those self-defense nerds. There are a million reasons to train martial arts, and none of them are necessarily wrong or bad reasons. Although I'm sure we could find exceptions to that. We can always find bad reasons and good reasons to do things, right? Combat sports are really about one thing: winning the sport, winning the competition, winning the fight, and that's about it. Where do they overlap? Where do they not overlap? Well, the goals, again, if your goals are whatever you want them to be, that can work in the field of general martial arts. It doesn't work in the field of combat sports. Because if you go into a combat sport thinking everything is fine, everything works, everything doesn't work, everything isn't fine, everything isn't a good game plan. One guy wins, one guy loses. That's the dichotomy of any sport. That's the goal of any sport, to be the guy who wins. And if your goal is something else, then maybe stay away from combat sports. That being said, where do they overlap? Technique-wise, sure. As I mentioned, my first martial arts, Taekwondo, Shotokan Karate, Kobudo, Capoeira. Well, let's take Kobudo off the table because that's all weapons. Traditional Okinawan weapons, sticks, and bodors, and tonfa, and sai, that sort of stuff. But karate, taekwondo, kicking, punching, movement patterns that also exist in combat sports. There's the overlap. Had a hard time getting my fingers to overlap right there, but I did it. It's not that complicated, friends. Next question. Our next question comes from Bear. Bear says, Coach Ramsey, great video as always, thank you. I have a coaching question for you. Good, because I'm a coach. In your opinion and experience, should a coach for MMA have ring or cage fights under their belt to be an effective or relevant coach or trainer? I have several guys wanting me to coach or train them for amateur bouts, but apart from some heavy sparring, I've never had any serious fights. Would having more combat experience give me a better perspective when training others to a competitive level? Yeah, it would definitely give you a better perspective. Is it necessary that a coach have a professional fighting career or an amateur fighting career? No, but it certainly is useful. Even if your fighting career sucked, it's useful for specifically that reason that you outlined: perspective. Because when you've competed, you understand what competition feels like. You understand the mindset of a fighter. You understand all the crazy that is going through the mind and the heart and the soul leading up to that fight. And if you haven't, then you don't understand what they're going for, and you lack that perspective, and you're going to lack that ability to empathize with those fighters and build them up in the way that they need to be built up before going into that tumultuous experience. To be a good technician in the gym, you don't need those things. You can be an awesome gym fighter. There are tons of great gym fighters out there. Guys who can just lick anybody in the gym any day of the week, but they've never competed, and maybe they would just fall apart in a fight. And some of these guys actually do compete, and they're unimpressive fighters, but they're super impressive in the gym. And you see the opposite too. Guys who are just kind of so-so in the gym, but they just shine in a cage fight. And they thrive on that energy, and they thrive on those circumstances and all those variables. And essentially what we have from you and people like you who want to coach and they want to be instructors, and you certainly can be, and you can certainly be You can even be a good coach and a successful coach without competition. But we have people lacking the basic understanding of what a cage fight is, what it feels like, what it does to you on a visceral level. Not everybody needs to fight. I'm not telling you you need to do it. Fighting is an inherently dangerous sport that may result in injury or even death, and that's not something to be taken lightly. That's not something you're just like, oh, let's go give it a try just because some dude on the internet said so. It's something that you only need to be doing if it's something that you feel like you need to be doing. And you better have a pretty good reason for it. Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Q&A with the Coach. If you have questions for future editions of Q&A with the Coach, just leave them in the comments down below, and I will read them. Shout out to the channel sponsor, xmarshall.com, for the great gear they use. Don't forget to use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything on the website. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.